Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Waffle Time from AEG. Waffle Time is a 1 to 4 player game of building out the perfect morning breakfast or lunch or possibly dinner, depending what you're in the mood for. But in this game, what you're going to be doing is you're going to have a waffle over here. You're going to start with a setup card where we're going to go ahead and look at our setup card, and these are going to be different by player. We're going to put these into their respective spots onto that board, and then we're going to put the two fruits shown onto either of the star spots, and that's where you might want to look what you have over here. I think the banana goes better over there, but we'll talk more about why soon enough. My waffle is now started, and let's talk about how you score before we talk about the rest of the game. At the end of the game, you're going to score for effectively getting syrup onto the combinations of fruits and or whipped cream in the game. You're going to get 1 point for everything you have a syrup on, 3 points if there's a whipped cream underneath that, so you want to try to get that in place. 2 points for every butter, which I'm realizing now I have not properly set up. I'll just going to go ahead and grab these over here. There should be another butter over there. And then lastly, you're going to get 2 points if you have finished out, well, not lastly, you're going to get 2 points if you completely empty all your syrup from your jar over here. And then lastly, you're going to get points of the various goals you've achieved throughout the course of the game. So effectively, you're trying to get goals, you're trying to get syrup on things, you're trying to get syrup on things that have cream in them, and you're trying to get the butter by fulfilling the goals first. Effectively, if you fulfill a goal first, you take a butter, you drop it into your waffle somewhere. That'll be worth 2 extra points in addition to the 3 points you have over here. Past that, the core thing that you kind of referenced is syrup. Getting syrup onto things is a big part of the game, so let's talk about how you get syrup onto your waffles. Specifically, every single game you're going to have different cards in play for the 5 different fruits in play. And there are 3 of each type for each fruit, so there's 3 banana cards, 3 blackberry cards, 3 cherry cards, etc. So you can have a different combination of these every game, as well as 3 of the 8 possible goals in play. You're going to go ahead and look at these, and these all tell you how to score. So for example, I know that if I get a pattern of 3 cherries in that shape over there, then I get to put syrup on all of them from my supply, which means you need to do 2 things in this game. You need to ensure that you always have enough syrup in your container, as well as the fact that you need to actually fulfill the various goals they have over here. So to that end, let's see what we can go ahead and do offhand. I don't think I can do anything the first round, but we'll start this off. I don't think there's anything great right now. I think what we're going to try to grab ourselves a cherry and a banana. So I'm going first over here. I'm going to go put my little marker in one of these divots. I'm first right now in this spot. I'm going to go ahead and take these, and well, not going to take them. I apologize. I will not take them. I'll take that configuration of those and put them down anywhere on my board. In this case, I'm going to put this there and over there, and there's a reason why I'm doing those patterns in a second. You'll see that soon enough. The other players will go ahead and go. Maybe they go here, they go over here, they go over here. As the other players finish moving and resolving their own taking of the fruits, and you're always taking the first 2 from wherever you went. So yellow would take an extra syrup. That's you get one of the ways you get extra syrup, as well as a cherry. Over here, green's taking a blackberry and a banana. You're always taking the first 2 from whatever orientation you're going, but you cannot take from these 2 spots that are filled. Additionally, players in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place will be getting syrup for going 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. 1 syrup for 2nd or 3rd, 2 syrup for going in 4th place. From there, you're going to retreat all the people onto their spots, pulling back horizontally. So you're going to go ahead and pull, not horizontally, you're going to pull back around and put them onto their spots. Slide this to the next spot over, and then wherever the fork is, you're going to flip these tiles to their other side, which means as you go across the game, you are slowly rotating and flipping the various spots on the board. The game is going to last 8 rounds. You have 2 on each side until you come back to the timer, and you have 8 full rounds of play to resolve this. I'll do 1 more round so you get a sense of how things escalate or what I'm trying to do in this game. But right now, I'm actually going to wait, and they'll see this player over here will go, let's say, over here. They'll take those. This player will go over here, taking these. You can take extra whipped cream, as you can see. And I'm going to go ahead, and take this spot over here, the exact same spot, which hasn't changed, because I still want, actually, you know what? I don't know if I care about that. I kind of want the, you know what? Let's pretend, for the sake of this conversation, let's pretend I had gone over here, so you can get a sense of multiple scoring combinations here. Actually, no, I think I did want the cherry. I wanted the cherry and, you see, it's a problem. I wanted a cherry and a thing, but it's okay. It's all good. Let's go ahead and show you how this plays out. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to take these 2 over here, taking 2 cherries, putting them out over here and over here. And then let's show you how these score. You're going to look at your board over here, and you're going to see whenever you put things down into the grid, you're going to see how they score. And right now I've taken, in fact, I probably should take this other cherry and put it over here so you can see that. Right now I'm going to go ahead and take those cherries, and I'm going to put them down here. And bananas score whenever you have a banana, another fruit, a banana, and another fruit in that order. Then you're going to take syrup from your grid. You're going to put them onto the bananas. It's also worth noting I should have taken a syrup because I went 3rd over there. So you're going to take syrup from your grid, put them onto the bananas. Cherries score by being in that grid, so we're going to take those cherries and put them down onto those right away. So you can see right now, I currently have 1, 2, 3, 4 points, and this is 5, 6, 7 because it's on the whipped cream as well. Taking whipped cream to score extra points is not a bad thing. If on a future turn I went over here and I took a whipped cream and a cherry, I'd be able to put the whipped cream over here, the cherry here, and immediately score for that trio of cherries over here and get the points. Over here, blackberries score for that little Tetris polyomino shape. Strawberries score similar to bananas, but in a grid instead of a line. And blueberries are interesting. Blueberries, the way they score is if they are in between two things of syrup, they automatically get their own syrup on top of it. So as long as they're in between things of syrup, you put a syrup onto the blueberry. All of those are going to be how you're slowly trying to acquire fruit, acquire whipped cream, acquire syrup, either through this spot over here on the board, alternatively by going second, third, or fourth, and trying to ensure you have enough syrup coming into supply, because you can't put syrup on things if you don't have syrup, just the laws of physics and all that. And you're trying to gather across 8 rounds of play. Every round you're taking 2 new things, whether it's fruit, whether it's syrup, or whether it's whipped cream, and you're putting those 2 new things onto your board in addition to the starting setup that you have onto your board, trying to score as many points as possible by trying to get all those, and then being mindful of the goals. So for example, this goal over here is having 5 syrup in a straight line, which means I'm going to immediately take this butter, throw it onto my grid somewhere. I'll throw it over here. I'm going to throw the butter onto my grid somewhere because I have that. That butter's worth 2 points, and I've achieved this goal, which I can check at the end of the game. Once I have 4 of one fruit and 4 of a different fruit, I'll get this goal, and this goal over here is having 2 of every fruit, and there's going to be different goals in play. Like I said earlier, there's 8 different goals. You're going to have 3 of them in play every single game. You're going to try to do that across the 8 rounds of play until eventually the game is over, at which point you'll score for achieving the goals. You'll score for any butter you have on your board. You'll score 1 point for every syrup, 3 points for every whipped cream and syrup on top of a fruit, and then 2 points if you've completely cleared out your syrup thing, which is challenging, and sometimes doing that or trying to do that might end up losing you points, so be mindful around that. But that is basically how you play Waffle Time. Which brings us to a review, starting off with ease of play. Game is very easy to get up and running. It's a few pages of rules. The sequence is very clear, especially if you've played this kind of variable scoring game before. The one thing that I do find trips people up a bit, and I find often it is helpful to set up a scoring situation in order to teach the game, is the whole concept that everything in this game, ultimately, almost everything in this game, comes down to scoring syrup. You're trying to get syrup in play, which I find is not immediately intuitive as you teach this game. You teach the game, people get a kind of general sense of what they're trying to do, and it often takes like a round or two before you're like, oh, I guess everything comes down to putting syrup on things, which is exactly what the game is, but I do find it's helpful to like set up a scoring situation, show people, well, this is how you'd score right now. We have this over here, we have this over here. Once you show people that, and especially if you throw some extra fruit onto the board and you're like, you see this over here? This will score nothing right now, as will this will score nothing because these don't have syrup on them. Showcasing people how things score is helpful, just because I find people get a little too stuck on the idea that putting things on their board is just inherently good, as opposed to the fact that it is good, but only if you cap it off with syrup. Past that, the game, like I said, very easy to teach, very easy to play, plays in around half an hour. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, which is the variable goal scoring in general. Not just these 3 goals over here out of 8, and yes, I wish there were more, but 3 goals out of 8, but having one of 15 or 15 different cards, 3 for each fruit type over here, does give you different combinations of how you're trying to achieve things. Having blueberries that score by being in between things is very helpful when you have this strawberry and this banana in play, because you can cascade those things nicely together, so you're trying to be mindful of that. But also trying to create double patterns, but over here, you can have this pattern, which can both be in the middle of a banana, but also be in the middle of a strawberry. So you can have a situation where you have that one, that cherry over here, which is in between that, but also you can have another, banana situation over here, which is going to, again, achieve the goal by going over here, but then loop that around with 2 cherries over here, and now you have everything scoring across the board. Well, not this cherry. That cherry is going to be alone forever until it dies, but these cherries over here are going to score. These bananas over here are going to score. So you can have all these different ways you're trying to build out your board, and you're trying to balance that with what you're trying to do. You want to try to get whipped cream from the center. Whipped cream is going to be very helpful because it effectively triples the scoring of a spot, but it doesn't necessarily help you with the goals. So you're trying to balance everything you do over here, and there's a lot to think about as you go through it. And the variable goal scoring does keep the game different game to game, and there's enough to think about between the scoring for syrup, between the scoring for whipped cream, between trying to accomplish goals. There's enough to think about to keep you engaged as you go through this. Managing your syrup supply is another thing. It's very easy to sit there and run out of syrup if you're not careful. So you do want to spend enough time making sure you don't always go first in the game, so you have a continued supply of syrup coming in, but that also does mean you're not getting first pick of a board that only has limited options, especially at higher player counts. And at 2 player counts, there's another little tile that will shift around the board with you, blocking off spots as well. As far as what I don't like in the game, there's no sense of escalation across the 8 rounds. I would say the first round isn't really enough. The first round doesn't have a lot going on because you need to supply your board with some fruit. But by the time you enter your second round, every single turn is a little combination of adding 2 things to your board, and the game never really escalates. There's no sense of getting more done as the game progresses. There's no sense of accomplishment over what you've built. Occasionally throughout the game, you'll achieve a goal or two. That's the only sense of additional progress you have. But the game just, it moves along at a very slow and steady pace for 8 rounds. No sense of escalation. The first round is nearly identical to the last as you go through it. I'll also say, fairly importantly, I don't think Waffle Time stands out mechanically in a very crowded space. Variable game scoring is a huge thing in games nowadays. The idea of just having a simple, tactical, abstract, adjacent puzzle in which you're trying to fulfill different goals, trying to be mindful of certain things as you're trying to get points. This whole tactical grid concept is being done a lot in board games nowadays, and that means there's a lot of stiff competition out there. I think Waffle Time is good and is enjoyable, and there are things about it, including the theme. I didn't even talk about the theme. The theme is just like a charming, very different theme you see, but ultimately I don't think mechanically it stands out in a crowded place. I think it is a very good gateway option in this genre, but I don't think it gives you enough to sink your teeth into in a space that is full of this style of games. As far as what I can see others not liking, I kind of touched upon it already in ease of play, but the idea that it does take a second to actually realize how you're scoring. This is a game that I do find you will have a much better experience for those playing, for those that you're teaching, if you show them how things score, because it is easy to just think that getting things on the board is good and not really realizing. I find players don't really pick up on the fact that whipped cream is great, but you want to put fruit on that whipped cream or you're wasting your time. Fruit's great, but if you don't get syrup on the fruit, you're wasting your time. I find those concepts do take a little bit of either playing or showing people what does and doesn't score as you go through it, saying, hey, by the way, you see this whipped cream you didn't do? That's not going to score you any points because you didn't put anything on it, and so you want to take advantage of those. So that's the only real thing there. As far as final thoughts on Waffle Time, I overall enjoy Waffle Time. It is a good game. I've had a fun time with it, but like I said already, it is a charming game with a unique theme. It's a great gateway game, but I don't think it necessarily stands out in a crowded space. I think the main area I would recommend this for is because of how rules light it is, and because of the very charming, very accessible theme. I mean, again, but waffles, it can be appealing to someone who doesn't care at all about board games. I do think this makes a great gateway game into the genre of this kind of tactical, abstract, variable point scoring game. So I think it is a good gateway game, and I think it is very charming, and it is very accessible, but I think that's the target audience, that's the target demographic, that focus on accessibility or pulling people into the hobby more so than I would recommend this to a seasoned gamer who has played a bunch of games. I think I'd recommend other games to those players instead. And for me, this is a 3.5 out of 5. It's fun, it's good, it just doesn't necessarily stand out for me. As far as other game recommendations, speaking of, games that I'd recommend to a more seasoned gamer in the space, I'd recommend highly Cascadia. Cascadia has a strong sense of escalation as you go through it, because you get more and more done, your grid's expanding, same core concept, one of my favorite games in the genre, but Cascadia is definitely one that I strongly recommend with a strong solo play as well. And then if you're looking for something that, a similar genre but a different game, Luna Capital also. Luna Capital from Devere Games is another game that, again, this is where it's interesting, because I think Cascadia has the theme appeal and the gameplay appeal. I think Luna Capital has the gameplay appeal, not necessarily the thematic appeal, but Luna Capital is another great game of trying to be mindful of different scoring goals as you slowly escalate, putting more and more things down onto the, I believe, moon, as you go through it, trying to score as many points as possible. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.